Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. So, last week, the Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi teaser trailer finally dropped. And it didn't show us a whole lot, but it did get fans excited for the next installment of the beloved epic saga. And finally, we get some more Luke Skywalker, as his voice is heard throughout most of the trailer, and many have speculated and theorized on what he meant at the end of the trailer when he said,
"It's time for the Jedi to end."
So, what could that mean? Luke Skywalker saying the Jedi should end? No, that can't be right. What does it all mean? Like I said, many have speculated, but now there's a bunch of theories out there. It seems that most people think that this is grumpy old man Luke, who is very bitter about the past and reluctant to train Rey in the ways of the Jedi, and most seem to think this is fairly early in the film. Now, I have my own opinion and ideas on what to take from this, and I'm not claiming that there aren't any theories similar to mine. I'm sure that the overall premise is maybe one of the bigger theories, but I just wanted to share my views and point of view on this subject, and basically what I thought from the second Luke said those words. It's time for the Jedi to end. So from what we know, Luke has been in isolation for many years now after the tragedy that happened. He was training a new generation of Jedi sometime after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when one of his Padawans/nephew betrays him and along with the First Order destroys the new Jedi Temple and killing the others in training. Obviously, this would suck the hope out of almost anyone. Luke probably felt a tremendous amount of guilt, pain, and loss from all of this and figured he could only make things worse by sticking around. But he's been isolated at the first Jedi Temple, learning and training, trying to uncover and dig deeper into the true meaning of the Force and the Jedi. Now, one other quick little theory I have about why Luke left in the first place, in all the pain, anger, and possible desire for revenge, I think he may have felt a very strong pull to the dark side and either did something or was afraid he would do something with all of his power and be consumed by the dark side. So he just got out of Dodge for the benefit of everyone. So anyway, I think what he has come to learn during his time at the first Jedi Temple after all these years is that it actually is time for the Jedi to end, or at least the tradition they've carried out for centuries. So no, I do not think this is just Luke being bitter and grumpy at first. Do I think he'll be like that in the beginning? Sure, probably. He's been through a lot and hasn't been in contact with many physically present living beings in some time. But overall, I think he means what he says, and there really is a point to the end of the Jedi, and I also do not think it means he's going to the dark side, nor do I think this is a bad thing. So let me explain. So any real fan of Star Wars should know that you have the dark side and the light side of the Force, and that for all to be right in the galaxy far, far away, both sides of the Force must be balanced. So logic should tell you that the Jedi completely wiping out the Sith would be just as off balance for the galaxy as the Empire or the First Order being in control and oppressing the galaxy. Now, I'm not saying that the Jedi were ever the bad guys, or as bad as the First Order or Empire, but there has to be balance in the Force. I believe this is something Luke has learned or realizes. I think he's realized the reason Jedi went extinct is because they lost sight of what it really means to bring the balance, and that you must transcend the Jedi and the dark side and learn to accept and work with both. Many would call this kind of being a gray Jedi, but personally, I don't think it really should have a name. But Luke knows that the Jedi were wrong, kind of like his father, and they destroyed themselves by losing sight and being set in their ways. And if you don't believe me, I think there is no greater example of this than there is in the prequels. Say what you want about those films, but I believe the answer is there, and you should hear me out. The prequels do not have the same sense of adventure as the original trilogy, but Lucas really did a good job using the prequels to lay the blueprint of the society and the role of the Jedi and the Senate and so forth, so on. It was just done kind of bland. But the proof to this theory is there, and I think it makes those words in the Episode 8 trailer make perfect sense. Look at the Jedi Order in the prequels and how set in their ways they are. The guidelines are so strict, and most, if not all the time, the Jedi Council makes decisions based on following the Jedi Code, and opposed to following the will of the Force, ultimately being corrupt in that they were as one-sided as the Sith. which they completely ignored the existence of, thinking they were gone, but as we know, there is no light without the dark. So the Sith were able to manipulate the galaxy and manifest in power right under the nose of the Jedi, who were so set in their ways. So ultimately, the Jedi lost the war, being their own worst enemy. Years of tradition have made them oblivious to their flaws and became less connected with what the Force willed. Perfect examples of this are the characters of Qui-Gon Jinn and even Anakin Skywalker himself. First, Qui-Gon Jinn. He was definitely a Jedi and took orders from the Council and so on and whatever, but often had conflicts with them because of their contradicting views. Obi-Wan even mentions to Qui-Gon he would be on the Council himself if he wasn't always going against the orders or the Jedi Code. But Qui-Gon, as he more or less says multiple times, that he lets the will of the Force guide him, and this often butts heads with the Jedi Council. For example, he was the one that sensed Anakin was the one from the prophecy and believed that training him was the right thing to do. So because of that, they wanted to decline admittance to being trained as a Jedi. This shows how they completely try to ignore and avoid the dark side to a fault. Anakin is a great example himself. In episodes 2 and 3, it's constantly following his gut feeling, and usually it works out for him, but it usually gets him in pretty deep water with the Jedi Council. Anakin, like Qui-Gon, believes in the will of the Force and will usually follow it whether it agrees with the Council or not, and he is constantly getting in trouble with them, but he still always continues to follow his instinct. Not to mention he has a secret love life with Padme, and the Jedi forbid relationships, so this is also very conflicting with what he feels is right. This starts to cause tension between the Jedi and Anakin, and as he gets closer to Palpatine, Palpatine more or less points out where the Jedi are wrong, making Anakin question what is right. He understandably doesn't see the Jedi as right. Whether that's an excuse to go on a murder spree is a whole nother thing, but he sees the Jedi are stuck in their ways and it has corrupted them, and eventually, out of some twisted reasoning of love, he is consumed by the dark side for the next 30 years or so. Oh, and let me just throw in Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars and Rebels, a character who very much like Anakin followed her gut feeling. So that's why personally I think you have to look back to the prequels to truly understand what Luke means when he says it's time for the Jedi to end. I know a lot of people hate on those movies, and I kind of think that's why they aren't coming to this conclusion. But you can't ignore episodes 1 through 3. I know you want to, but you can't. So that's what I really think. And not to mention, Luke himself was not trained the same traditional way as Jedi before him, and he ended up being the one that brought his father back to the light and brought balance to the Force briefly. But like his father and many others, he feels a strong pull to the dark side, but it wasn't as strictly suppressed as Anakin's, and the key is finding the balance. That's the key word, balance. Luke has realized you can't completely ignore the dark side and that the traditional Jedi ways were wrong. Maybe Kylo felt just as Anakin did in the prequels, and that's how the same mistake was made again, and now Luke knows the truth. Following the will of the Force and transcending the Jedi and the dark side to find the perfect balance. But hey, those are just my thoughts on what I think Luke meant when he said it's time for the Jedi to end. And I think this will be the case in episode 8. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But hey, that's really what I think, and you gotta look at the prequels. Tell me what you think of this theory, and does it hold up? What do you think will happen in episode 8? Let me know in the comments below. This is AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. Thanks for watching. Take care. Hey guys, did you like this video? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, click right here on this icon to become a subscriber. And if you are a subscriber, don't forget to ring that bell so you can stay updated with all my videos. And if you want to see another video just like this one, click right here. And as always, thanks for watching AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation.